Boolean operators are terms that you use to link terms and concepts together to form relationships between them. The three terms or operators are and, or, and not. In this video, I'm just going to talk about and or because they're the two operators you'll use most often. Not is used, but not as often as the other two. When it comes to using these, the and operator, what it will do for you is it will provide a relationship between two concepts. So go for example to the question of hand washing preventing hospital-acquired infections. I may want to know how hand washing affects hospital-acquired infections, so I may want a direct relationship between them. So what I may do in a search is do hand washing and hospital-acquired infections. What this will do to my search results is give me articles in which both hand washing and hospital-acquired infections appears. You can see what I'm talking about in this search of PubMed. When I put hand washing and hospital-acquired infections together, what you'll notice is I get hospital-acquired infections and hand washing being discussed in the same article. Now if I were to use or combines synonyms or like concepts together. I wouldn't use it in reference to hand washing and hospital-acquired infections, because if I did hand washing or hospital-acquired infections, it would give me articles that talked about one or the other, but not necessarily make a relationship. So when you use or, what you're going to want to do is use it when you're coming up with your alternative terms, such as hand washing or surgical scrubbing. These are both different ways of describing the same topic, and by using or, what I'll do is I will get articles that talk about hand washing or surgical scrubbing, but it won't necessarily mean that they're discussed together. The reason you want to use or is it helps to broaden your net, so to speak, so that you get more articles to look at. To show you what I mean by why it's a bad idea to use or to make a direct relationship is if I do hand washing or hospital-acquired infection, what I'm going to find is I'm going to get a lot of articles, but the articles will have hand washing or hospital-acquired infection in them, but that won't necessarily be in relationship to one another. So you'll notice I go from a couple articles up to 2,305 articles in which hand washing is being talked about, but it's not always being talked about in reference to hospital-acquired infections. That's why it's always best policy and why you should only use or when trying to combine topics or concepts that are describing the same thing, like in the case of hand washing or surgical scrubbing. What will happen when I do this is I will broaden my net and therefore get more articles that talk about hand washing or surgical scrubbing, and therefore when I go to combine those with another term such as hospital-acquired infections, I'll be ensured of getting more articles that are related to what my topic is or to answer my question. Now, if you want to think of this in a different way, think of your groups of terms as concepts. Say group 1 is your hand washing group, and group 2 is your hospital-acquired infection group. What you're going to do is any term that's used to describe hand washing, say in group 1, you're going to or together. So what you do is you or within the box. And say in group 2, you're going to do the same thing. In this case, though, it'll be any term that you can use to describe hospital-acquired infection. So you're going to or everything in this box. And then what you'll do is that you'll combine them to make a direct relationship using and. It may look something like this. So when you're doing this and you're oring things together, don't be alarmed if your hand washing group has a large number of articles in it and your hospital-acquired infection group does as well. Because what happens when you make the direct relationship with and is that Any of these terms and any of these terms are going to have to appear together in an article in order for it to appear in your results. So the number is going to shrink anytime you go to make a relationship. To show you what I mean, let's take a look at what I've done here in PubMed. I took and I made myself a group of terms to deal with discussing hand washing. In this case, I used hand hygiene or surgical scrubbing. And when I did this search, I got 2,600 articles. That's a huge number. I did the same thing when it came to hospital-acquired infections. I used the term cross-infection or hospital-acquired infection and got 3,451. What's happening in both of these is in this first one, hand washing or surgical scrubbing, I'm pulling every article that either has hand hygiene or surgical scrubbing in it. In the following one, I'm getting any article that talks about cross infections or hospital-acquired infections to get a pretty large number. Now, the where and comes into this is if I add these two together and then and them to make a direct relationship, I'm going to get articles that talk about either hand hygiene in relationship to one of these two terms or surgical scrubbing in relationship to one of these two terms. And what you'll notice when I click on the search is I'm going to get a number that's going to be somewhere that is much smaller than either the 2,600 or over 3,000 I had from the previous two groups. In this case, you'll notice that when I put hand hygiene or surgical scrubbing together with the terms for cross-infection, I'm now down to 80 articles that all discuss this concept, even if it's being discussed or described in different ways. Boolean operators are just terms that are used to make relationships between terms. You use and to make a direct relationship. So if you want to see how hand washing affects hospital-acquired infections, you would do hand washing and hospital-acquired infection. But if you use or, the reason you're using it is not to make a direct relationship, but to gather all of the articles that may describe or discuss particular terms or concepts. Many times what you're doing is you're oring together or combining together alternative terms or synonyms for a particular topic, such as hand washing or surgical scrubbing, and then later combining that with another term, such as hand washing or surgical scrubbing and hospital-acquired infections, to figure out how it is that hand washing affects hospital-acquired infections. And that is how you use Boolean operators.